And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis. You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Good morning, Car Clinic affiliates. Your Car Clinic minutes for this week are about to head your way. So go ahead and press that record button. As always, thank you for broadcasting and listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Have a great weekend.
Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Breathe deeply, get in touch with your inner self, and tap into all that energy. Aha! You think I'm talking about yoga, but it's really about cars. When I come back, I'll rev you up.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing or grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet. In stock and at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Top performance in humans and in cars depends on oxygen intake. But how do you know if your car's getting enough? That's the job of close pin-sized gadgets called oxygen sensors. When in tip-top shape, these monitors measure oxygen in the exhaust, then signal onboard computers to adjust fuel-air ratios in the engine for complete combustion. But worn sensors give faulty cues, resulting in poor performance, higher emissions, and lower gas mileage. So check out those sensors. Then you and your car can breathe easy. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Winter vacations. Skiing, sledding, hot chocolate in the lodge. But no such luck for transmission repair technicians. When I come back, I'll tell you why winter snowstorms keep transmission shops busy.
O'Reilly.
Eventually, it's going to happen. You'll turn the key and your engine won't start. Don't lose your ability to get around. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a Super Start battery. Whether it's a reliable economy, hard-working premium, or powerful extreme, you'll find it in stock at an everyday low price. Don't let a dead battery get you down. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Transmission shops are busiest after a heavy snowstorm because, think about it. What do we do when we're stuck in snow? If you said rock our cars back and forth from low gear to reverse, you're right. Unfortunately, for our cars and our wallets, we rock way too hard, resulting in overheated automatic transmissions and damage to universal joints. So the next time you're stuck in snow, easy does it. And remember, if you're really stuck, a tow truck may be cheaper than a new transmission. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. When I say clean air, what comes to mind? Green meadows, ocean breezes, oxygen bars? Well, forget that and stay tuned, because when I come back, I'll tell you about some smoking clean air.
O'Reilly.
1 in 5 collisions is caused by drivers who simply can't see out their windshield because of badly worn or cracked wiper blades. If your wiper blades are streaking, skipping, or smearing, it's time to stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts and let our team of professionals help you select the replacement wiper blade that's right for you. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
A better place than an oxygen bar to suck in clean air is the racetrack. Clean air is a racing term for undisturbed air, the kind the lead driver enjoys when there's no one in front of him. So he cuts through the atmosphere like an aerodynamic knife through butter. On the other hand, dirty or turbulent air created when race cars are bunched together makes cars hard to handle. They slide in corners and weave on straights, like your car behind semis on the highway. That's why drivers try to avoid the pack during a race, so they can enjoy the cleanest air of all afterward, during the smoking victory lap. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with today's Car Clinic Minute. Boy Scouts learn it to earn their Eagle badges, and if you know it, you may save a few Eagles of your own on dollar bills. Be prepared. When I come back, I'll tell you.
O'Reilly.
At O'Reilly Auto Parts, you're guaranteed to get the everyday low price on the parts you need. Our guaranteed low prices ensure you're always getting our best deal. In fact, we'll match any local auto parts store's price on any like item. We have the parts you need at prices you can be sure of at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Being prepared helps save 2 rare species, money and life. Every year, 1 in 11 Americans is involved in an accident. So listen up. Carry a jack, spare tire, jumper cables, and learn how to use them. Know what's in your insurance policy and who to call. Keep a card listing medical conditions and allergies. Invest in a cell phone. 911 services could be the stitch in time that saves 9 lives, that is. Go ahead, make your Scoutmaster proud. Earn your merit badge as a highway hero. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us. Hi, I'm Bobby Likis with another Car Clinic Minute. More may be the plaintive cry of turbocharged consumers, but it's also the voice of your vehicle's engine. When I come back, I'll tell you what the automotive beast wants more of.
O'Reilly.
At O'Reilly Auto Parts, you're guaranteed to get the everyday low price on the parts you need. Our guaranteed low prices ensure you're always getting our best deal. In fact, we'll match any local auto parts store's price on any like item. We have the parts you need at prices you can be sure of at O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Like consumers burn products and services and beg for more, so do vehicle engines burn gas and air and beg for more. And just like credit limits restrict buying power, so do limitations on number and size of cylinders reduce automotive power. Okay, so how do hungry engines get their power fix? Turbochargers. Here's how one works. Trapped exhaust air spins a turbine, which then turns an air pump, which compresses air. This squeezed air takes up less room, so more can be shoved into an engine's cylinders. When more air meets gas, kapow! More energy or horsepower is created. Thankfully, aftermarket turbochargers are readily available to feed the consumer beast. I'm Bobby Likis. Like us, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, live via ABC Radio satellite services. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll-free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And good morning. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Bobby Likis Car Clinic is sponsored by yours truly and by our great sponsors and partner sponsors, one of which is O'Reilly Auto Parts. Ironically, we choose sponsors that we totally use their services and or products prior to my endorsement on Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And it is that reason that we chose, out of all of the parts manufacturers, O'Reilly Auto Parts. So I can truthfully say this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. And folks, when it comes to safety, there's nothing more important than your vehicle's brakes. And the good news is you can trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to help you choose the brakes that are not only an exact fit for your vehicle, but brands you trust like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermal Quiet. At guaranteed low prices, all. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. Now, we're going to get started. Today's program is unusual in as much as, well, it's pretty usual to have Terry Savaston from WNDB here, but the Rolex 24-hour is the topic of the hour. and you are going to hear from Terry when we come back from this short commercial break. Jan will take your calls at 888-227-2546. Likis, you'll love us. This vehicle maintenance spotlight is brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Nothing's more important than your vehicle's brakes. Though there's no substitute for scheduled maintenance, also be on the lookout for signs of trouble, like your car pulling or a shuddering steering wheel. Trust the professional parts people at O'Reilly Auto Parts to help you choose the brakes that are an exact fit for your vehicle. Brands you trust like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at guaranteed low prices. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day. You wouldn't wear a summer shirt in the middle of winter, right? So why outfit your vehicle with tires that aren't designed for winter weather? General Tire offers a complete line of winter tires like the Ultimax Arctic with a multi-angle sight system that maximizes snow, ice, and wet traction. The Grabber Arctic and Grabber Arctic LT feature General Tire's innovative Duragen technology that promotes confident stability, even wear, excellent braking, and responsive handling. For more, drive to GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com. Here's an email from a Car Clinic listener. David writes, "What's the amber light on my dash? It looks like a cork pointing at an angle to a picture on the side of the car. This light has been on and off for about a year now, and I think it's time I check it out." Well, David, no time like the present. The light indicates a detected failure that could allow gasoline fumes to evaporate into the air, costing you money in lost fuel and polluting the air. Most common failure that trips the light? A small evap leak, or in other words, loose fuel cap. Besides being tight, the cap must also be in good condition. Fuel caps don't last forever, and poor quality caps don't work well from the beginning. Stant makes a large line of fuel caps that will last a very long time and ensure proper sealing of the system. Stant fuel caps are the only aftermarket caps to include all the safety features of the original equipment cap. Visit Stant.com or ask your local parts store for a Stant gas cap by name.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Rosie Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Folgers Mountain Grown, now you're here. Your aroma helps me wake and the day is mine to take. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
Okay, let's get started with today's broadcast. Number one, we'll be going to Terry Stabiston in Daytona Beach, Florida at the Daytona International Speedway because this weekend is the 24-hour Rolex. And for those of you who are not familiar, well, we all know you're familiar with a Rolex watch. Well, there's a lot of connection there for sure because that's the title sponsor Rolex is. But the race in and of itself features probably the most sophisticated automobiles. Well, I take that back. For sure, the most sophisticated race cars on the planet. So without further ado, we're going to go to Daytona and we're going to put on our air. And for you, and folks, if you'd like a question, if you have a question, just dial in and we'll add you to the conversation. And we're going to do a little bit of that today. We're going to conference folks in while we have other folks on the air as well. Sometimes that can be confusing, but I'm going to help not be confusing. In the meantime, Terry Stabiston, WNDB, Daytona Beach, Florida. Welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house, my friend.
I am glad to be in the house, Bobby. It's an amazing day here at Daytona International Speedway. The Rolex 24 kicks off at 2:30 this afternoon, but it's already, the fun begins early here. If you wanted to get up and hit the track at 7 o'clock this morning, they had a 5K run here, so track activity started early. But The real track activity starts at 2:30 this afternoon. And you said it, this race is about the cars. What an amazing, the cars here are just unbelievable. And literally right now, as I speak, they just came up on the PA and they're announcing that we have the historic sports car racing out here on track, on pit road, getting ready to roll off, about 20 cars that have previously raced here in the Rolex.
So the historic then, when you said historic, I think I and many of the Car Clinic listeners thought about classic cars and what have you, but we're not talking about, of course, they are classics, but they're not classics per se as the old 30 models and 40 models. These are cars that have actually raced before on the track in the 24?
Absolutely. And front row, sitting here in front of me, is a Nissan. Does that give you a hint how old this car is?
Wow.
GTP ZX Turbo. And, I mean, it is red, white, and blue, and it looks like a wing. It's just beautiful. And there's a line all the way back of Porsches and Ferraris and Lolas. This is a car, the dream world for car people right here walking down pit road. It's just amazing the view we got here. And they're bumper to bumper. They're getting ready to crank them up here in a minute. Here's a Lola, beautiful carbon fiber Lola from a few years back. And then we get back here in the line, and here's a Porsche Carrera, and just beautiful. And all of them are just painted up exactly like they were for the 24 hours years ago. A lot of the drivers here have run in the 24 hours that are driving these cars. And like I said, there's about 20 of them. There's a Camaro back in here in the back. But you know what, really, when you think about Rolex and the 24 hours, is Porsche. And the Porsches do dominate here.
Well, Porsche's forever. I don't know. I won't say Porsche invented road racing and the like, but certainly from day one, as long as I can remember, they were not only avid supporters, but they won a lot of races. In fact, you may or may not remember the Group 44 Jaguar race cars. The Group 44, Al Holbrook, who also raced Porsches and anything that had wheels on it, was very successful. Literally created some of the assets and attributes that we have on race cars or on street cars today. And Terry, and for our audience, I'll give you just one of those quickly. In the earlier days, Porsche, of course, won, as you said, won, and Jaguar could not win. So Jaguar went to Bosch and said, we've got to have a way to beat these guys. So they came out with what's called a fuel cut. And a fuel cut means that when you back off the throttle to go into the turn, and as you know, there being at the track, when you're running 150 miles an hour down the straightaway, and then you've got to back off the throttle to go through a 35 mile per hour hairpin, then you have no throttle. Well, during that time, Bosch created the computer called a Motronic control that would cut the fuel, and so the Jaguar cars did not use fuel anytime the throttle was at rest, was off. Whereas the Porsches still had the old-fashioned Jetronic in the Bosch system. As a result, the Jags got better gas mileage, so the Porsche would run fast, stop and get gas. During that time, the Jag would cruise right on by, and as you know, at the Indy 500, Alex Rossi won that race last year because he stayed out, because he got better gas mileage, and it was one of those things, and it happens a lot of times there in Daytona when the pit crews say, how much gas do we have? Now, we'll turn that back to you with regard to the 24-hour. How long does the driver stay out, and how long is a normal pit stop, if you can call it anything normal, in 24 hours?
Normal pit stops are usually maybe about 30 or 40 seconds. Depends, sometimes a little longer. A driver change takes you a few. Drivers stay in the car. A stint is what they call it, is one fuel run. They usually stay in 2 to 3 stints, and you need to get fuel about once an hour, maybe a little less, maybe a little more often, depending on the car. And talking about fuel mileage, we had it happen yesterday. We had the BMW Challenge Series, or Challenge with the Continental Tire Series race, 4-hour endurance race. And in the Street Tuner Series, a Mini Cooper won and outran a lot of other, Porsches and other cars out there. Mini Cooper didn't have to stop as much, and he could make it a little quicker through those corners on the infield. They might have had him out there on the speedway, but he won the race yesterday in the Tuner Series. Now, 3 Porsches did win the Grand Sports Series, but there you go.
How many starters in the 24-hour lineup, and how many classes in that particular race?
This is the 55th running of the Rolex 24, and there are, by coincidence, 55 cars in it. The number of drivers, it can vary. Most of the cars for the 24-hour race have 4. Some have 3. I think 1 or 2 might even have 5. And at some point, I don't know if they've done. I've seen it before where they'll put a driver right up until race time on 2 cars and then make the decision at race time which car they'll put them in. But that goes years back. You can't do that anymore. But and then, too, you have to spend a certain amount of time in the car. It happened last year, I believe, with Wayne Taylor Racing that Ricky Taylor that came in and changed drivers. They realized after he went back out that he didn't have enough time in the car and needed to get back in. They had to come back to pit road and put him back in, and they were in the lead when they did it, and they lost the race and came in, I think, 3rd. So you got to calculate not only fuel but driver's time, tires, everything. This is an endurance race, and you never know what's going to happen.
We're talking with Terry Saveston, WNDB, 1150 AM News Talk in Daytona Beach, Florida, and also 93.5 FM. So, Terry, is there a way to predict a winner, or is there a favorite? I know that's true for almost any sports, whether it's college football or drag racing or NASCAR racing. But in this particular day and age, with the sophisticated cars, and folks, these cars have windshield wipers, alternators, brake lights. I mean, these are, and Terry, I'd like your 2 cents. Aren't these the most sophisticated race cars on the planet?
I don't know. Formula One might be. I think there's a lot of comparison. But to put in perspective, Gary Nelson, who is the team director for Action Express Racing, and if you remember right, Gary Nelson goes back into NASCAR quite a ways. At one time was technical director for NASCAR. He's involved with Action Express, which just happened to switch to a new brand or a new sponsor and a new team, or not a new team, but a new car. And Cadillac is back. And he put in perspective, he said, just the difference in technology from last year to this year, we spent $30,000 engineering. This was $100,000 this year with Cadillac. It's changed that much, and it's cutting edge. And they're bringing things to the table that you probably won't see on your car for a few years, but you will see it. And this is a development, and that's what Gary Nelson did. If you remember, a little guy called, I believe it was Greg Sachs, won this race once, and Gary here at Daytona International Speedway, Daytona 500, in a research and development car, and Gary Nelson was his crew chief. So what does that tell you? The technology is still growing and expanding every time we come out here. Ford GT, the GTs are here. I don't know, to pick a favorite, but the Cadillacs are on the pole. That's a good shot at it, but I don't know. These cars are pretty amazing. And it's survival, too. It's 24 hours.
And in closing, I want to bring one thing. You mentioned about the different technologies that are on the track, that are created for the track, that migrate and find their way into street cars. I know this for a fact. We are seeing more and more, they're called dongles, inside a regular car that connects that car to, like, insurance. You can get an insurance that monitors how you drive, and how each of those cars on that track is monitored by the pit steward, or the pit crew rather, real time. And that's telematics, and that's a no-brainer in racing. And we're seeing all of the new car makers offering and creating telematics so they can connect the new cars to the factories, so they know real time what the car is doing. And that's, to me, Terry, that's the epitome of a big brother watching, yes, but it also allows people to control what's seeing in the car. Terry, thanks so much for joining us this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Always great to have you. There you have it, folks. Terry Saveston, WNDB from Daytona. Stay tuned. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and its complete line of winter tires, including the Ultimax Arctic, Grabber Arctic, and Grabber Arctic LT. Visit GeneralTire.com to learn more. Winter weather's here, so is this a year you should opt for winter tires? That depends on where you live. If temps regularly fall below the 45-degree mark, it's probably a good idea. Once the temperature dips below 45, summer tires and even all-season tires' ability to grip the road decreases, resulting in longer stopping distances, less driving control, and less confidence. It can mean the difference between focused braking power and out-of-control handling. If you do buy winter tires, make sure you outfit your vehicle with 4 tires. Don't skimp and put them only on the drive end of the car. General Tire's Ultimax Arctic has 270 degrees of multi-angle sipes and thousands of biting edges to maximize traction in any direction. The Grabber Arctic and Grabber Arctic LT feature a robust cut and chip-resistant compound. To learn more, visit GeneralTire.com.
Your car and your life have a lot of moving parts, and your car's battery is what keeps it all going. Here's something to keep in mind. While all batteries may look the same on the outside, it's what's inside that matters. So be sure to choose a battery with power frame technology inside. It's stronger, more durable, and keeps you going longer. That means you can count on a battery with power frame to be there start after start. Here's another reason to feel good about choosing a battery with power frame inside. It's manufactured using the latest sustainable processes. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. So the next time you need to replace your car's battery, make sure you choose one with power frame technology inside. Look for power frame on the outside and know there's true strength on the inside.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
The airlines like to have sales. Summer getaway sales, holiday sales, winter sales. Truth is, at any moment, some airline somewhere is on sale with low fares to great destinations. Travelocity knows exactly what's going on, who's on sale, to where, and when, at over 700 airlines worldwide. We even have this nifty feature that lets you look at a calendar so that you can see exactly the days the great fares are available. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere. AOL keyword, travel.
Hun, guess my temperature.
It's 2 a.m. Go to sleep.
Come on, one guess.
98.
Higher.
Higher at 99.
You're getting warmer. Wait, I'm getting warmer.
Cold symptoms keeping you from getting a good night's sleep? Get NyQuil, the nighttime sniffling, sneezing, coughing, aching, stuffy head, fever so you can sleep better to feel better medicine. Use as directed.
One more guess.
100?
Yes. Tell her what she's won, Bob.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. As you heard Terry Sabiston from Daytona in the first segment of today's first hour, and there's another hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic coming up. In fact, in today's second hour, I would invite all of the boat owners, both along the Gulf Coast of Florida, which is where that we call the center of the automotive universe, because our studios are located in Pensacola, Florida, inside Bobby Likis Car Clinic Service Pre-Repair, which is a 15,000 square foot automotive service facility. So some 50 or 60 hours a week during the week, we service, repair, and pre-repair, which is the prevention of repair, maintain for our customers their automobiles. So that's where I get the bulk of my education ongoing, because we see those cars. And new cars, folks, today, and I say new cars, not just new cars, but the car that you drive is a computer-controlled vehicle. Like 80% of the cars on the road today, probably, if not more, are computer-controlled. So when the check engine light comes on, there could be a myriad of reasons and causes. So just be cautious and know that it's not always a loose gas cap. And also know this: anybody can buy for $35 or less or more a code reader which reads the codes in your car. So you can go to a parts house and they read your code. Oh, you got an O2 sensor code. It does not mean that O2 sensor is bad. It means that the O2 sensor is raising its hand and saying, help me, I've got a problem here. Maybe it's too lean, means there's a vacuum leak. Or maybe it's too rich, means that a fuel injector is too rich. Or maybe it's a spark plug that is not firing, and that cylinder is not firing the fuel, and that fuel goes back to the O2 sensor, says, oh, it's too rich. Well, yeah, it would be if you keep putting gas in a cylinder and you don't fire it, it's going to go out the tailpipe. And the O2 sensor is going to say, stop, stop. It's too wet here. It's what I call a gasaholic. And so for that reason, there's no such thing as read the code, and the code has a specific code, so you replace that part and it fixes the car. And there's no such thing in the real world as to put a gas cap on a car and make the evap code go away. Now, granted, that does happen. But how many times have you had chest pains and somebody could say, oh, you're not having a heart attack, are you? Well, no, it's just a little chest pain. So you can't jump to conclusion. And that's what automotive service is all about. And to that end, next hour, we're going to have Jay Berry. Jay Berry is a farmer, and he's the founder of Central Indiana Ethanol, but more importantly, he owns and he founded Ignite Racing Fuel. And so I've invited Jay Berry to join us for the entire segment and beyond, because I want you to know that in the next hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, you can call in, you can ask about his race boats, and not just his race boats, but boats like Cat Can Do that are very fast. And we're going to go to Jim now in Detroit and get our report from Jim. But I just want you to know that today is a unique opportunity for you to ask questions about what percentage of ethanol is okay for boats. Yeah, that's right, for boats. And or not, or if there's damage, and if so, what kind of damage, and also what advantages there might be for the octane properties of that fuel. In the meantime, Jen will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic. That's 888-227-2546. Put you in the queue, and I will put you on the air. On the air with us now is Jim from Detroit. Jim, thanks for holding. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. How are you this morning?
Well, Bobby, I'm doing pretty good. I think I've got some good car information today. I was comparing the safety in the future between a gas car, a hydrogen car, and an electric car. Oh. Volvo is aiming with extra safety precautions in their car already to make an electric car safer than a gas car and safer than a hydrogen car. To me, that's progress.
I wonder what parameters they use. I mean, obviously, when you think of safety, I mean, we could talk about the telephones. That we all carry telephones, but as you know, who was it? Samsung that was it Samsung, Fabio, that had the batteries that overheated? It was a $5 billion expense that they actually had to pay to get those phones off, and they did a whale of a job. I got to tell you, I mean, I have an Apple phone, but it has a battery in it, and the irony of that is some of those batteries that caught fire because of the way they were constructed, and some of those batteries that were in the same phones but were supplied by another battery manufacturer caught fire for another reason, and that complicated the investigation of why that happened. The bottom line, though, it's all going forward to make a safer product, and luckily, to my knowledge, no one died from that event. But it'll be interesting. What else? What other information do you have with regard to the safety factor? Did they say how they compared that, or how they were using benchmarks?
Well, one of the things they're doing, Bobby, is to keep the car cooler around the batteries, because heat tends to lead the possibility of a fire. And the other thing is to have circuit breakers to cut them out. And the third thing that Volvo is doing is putting them in the body of the car in an area that will be less damaged by a collision with the car, and they feel that this is the key step in moving forward.
So that reminds me, Jim, of the Tesla a couple of years ago. That it was one of those just flukes. A Tesla ran over. Just think of a boat anchor that is shaped, like a fish hook, a big boat anchor. This Tesla ran over an object in the road that curled up and rolled over and pierced the battery of the Tesla. And of course, no one was hurt, but the battery cage was pierced and it caught fire. And then, of course, Tesla immediately made their cages bulletproof, if you will, because they changed the design, which is in and of itself progress. And as far as safety, so when I think about that and how many electric cars are on the market today, and of course, then I think about how many gasoline cars are on the market and how many people are damaged or injured or have died because of the not safety factor of a gas versus I think we the drivers create more problems than the car makers. Would you agree with that?
I would agree with that, and that's why we're aiming to have self-driven cars because as smart as we are as humans, the computers in the cars can react faster and after fully tested more, I think give us less potential of major accidents.
Well, I have information that, or at least I have an opinion from a friend of mine who is a rocket scientist that I'll share with you about autonomous cars versus self-driving cars. But before I get into that, what else did you bring us?
Okay, we're talking about the new Mercedes, and their pilot in their car is recommended just as to be guided by the driver. And it's only a Class 2 qualification, which certainly doesn't mean you can take your hands away or your eyes away from the warning signals. Mercedes is making that so strong that every 30 seconds you get a message, and if you don't have your hands on the wheel and you don't respond, another 30 seconds and your car will be brought to a complete stop, eliminating the idea they can get sued for causing an accident and protecting you.
That makes sense. That makes sense. And that reminds me and brings me back to the differential or the difference between autonomous vehicles. And think about this, folks. Do we want autonomous vehicles? I mean, and Jim, you and I have discussed this many times, and I've discussed this with people from all over the nation here on Car Clinic. Do you want autonomous cars or do you want self-driving cars? Well, is there a difference between autonomous and self-driving? And the answer to that is absolutely. A self-driving car does exactly what you're just talking about. The Mercedes that's going to self-drive, as long as you are a participant, as long as you are, the car knows that you're aware of it. At least you're not in the back seat playing cards, and the car is making all the decisions. And here's the difference. And this is the way that this brilliant individual and a friend of mine spoke to me just this past week. An autonomous car means that we're going to give that car the decision-making responsibility of if the car is going to crash into 10 people ultimately or take evasive action and kill the driver. Will that car kill the driver to save 10 people? That would be an autonomous car. And the answer is, according to this doctor, who is a brilliant individual, we don't need autonomous cars. We just need self-driving cars. And you think about that, there's no way that you would, and this is a still legal issue, there's no way that you would give autonomy to an automobile, and that means you're giving the decision-making process to the computer, and the computer says, is it Jim or Bobby or Mary or Jane or Jan or Fabio or a dozen people, bystanders? Can't do that. That's not right. What do you think about those comments?
Well, Bobby, they've been testing recently, and they've even, by the computer, got the car. If a pigeon's walking below the car will know it's there, where the driver might not see it, and the car will drive around away from the pigeon, not even to hurt the pigeon. So the bird's the word.
That's really. In the short period of time that we have left, what else did you bring us, sir?
Okay, Bobby, next year look out for a new SUV in the 2018 Cadillac. SUVs are big on the market. They sell more than the regular sedan. I'm an old guy. I still like the sedan. We don't need 6 other people in the car with my wife and I at the most. It's my dog and my daughter, so that's 4 forms of life, one of which is not human,
right.
But nevertheless, and we don't have the capacity in our garage to hold an SUV. So that's why we're happy where we're at.
Well, sounds like a winner to me, and always what a great program that, and folks, every Saturday from 10 till noon Eastern Time, right here on your favorite radio stations, and also at Watch Bobby Live. And Watch Bobby Live is a global cast video. We're in the studio. You can tune in and you can ask your questions. Jim, thank you so much for joining us today on this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
It's always my pleasure every week.
Very good. Thank you. And folks, take a short commercial break and come back, and I want to share with you about a self-driving bus in Las Vegas today, and also how to fix a short in a Chevrolet. Folks, we're testing an Intune i2 performance programmer from Diablo Sport, and we'll share feedback and results over the next few months. First is ease of installation. Directions were clear and the setup was easy. The Intune i2 is preloaded with dyno and street-tested performance programs developed specifically for your car or truck, ensuring optimal power and drivability gains. From there, you can then customize a tune tailored to your own performance needs. What a great way to boost power without even popping the hood. Diablo Sport Intune i2 has a fantastic look and now features the latest generation ARM processor for a higher resolution screen and an exceptionally responsive touchpad. You can update your i2 software on virtually any computer, Windows, Mac, Linux, and update times are fast. Even the large updates take no more than 5 minutes. I'll report more to you about the Intune i2 in the coming weeks. In the meantime, check out the i2 for yourself at DiabloSport.com. That's DiabloSport.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Waking up can be a chore, but mornings knocking on my front door. Know just what I'll do. Put on a pot of Folgers brew. Mountain grown aroma hits the spot. Helps me give all that I've got. An opportunity to start out smiling and happy. The best part of waking up is Folgers in your cup.
I'm privileged to be involved with Capstone Adaptive Learning, formerly known as United Cerebral Palsy, for over 25 years. Since 1953, Capstone has provided quality care programs for persons with developmental disabilities like autism, cerebral palsy, Down syndrome, and intellectual disabilities. Dr. Sherry White with her team are dedicated to Capstone's clients, and 100% of your contributions stay local to serve those in this community. Go to capstoneadaptivelearning.org to see the difference Capstone makes.
Technology moves at the speed of innovation, and today, that's lightning fast. So when you get your hands on the latest tech, don't forget to do the right thing with your old devices. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old tech device as easy as purchasing new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the responsible recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find lots of tips to simplify your recycling, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Television sets, video game consoles, smartphones, tablets, they're all recyclable. Don't let them clog up your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org. You're sharp enough to get the latest tech tools into your home. Now be responsible enough to get your old devices to the recycler. That's greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question or want to make a comment, or it doesn't have to be about cars, it could be about oils or tires or you name it, just the new technology or even the old technology, Miss Jan will take your calls at 888 Car Clinic and put you in the queue. And I'll dedicate this last segment of this first hour to all of those of you who not only drive cars, but have perhaps people in your house that you pay the bills for them to repair the cars that they drive as well, the hand-me-down cars. We get a lot of cars in our service shop that have a lot of miles on them. We get new cars as well because of our programs, and so we actually perform the maintenance, and we are authorized to perform all maintenance services on all new cars that is required to maintain the factory warranty. We are not authorized, nor are we paid by the OEM car makers to repair the vehicle under warranty if there's a defective part or an update or a recall. That's not the case at all. But it not only are we, as we're an authorized Bosch service center, the first in the state of Florida and the 8th in the nation when Bosch started that program as far back as 1986. So for almost 30 years, we have been the area's only authorized Bosch Auto Service Center. And if you want to know more, you can just go to BoschCarService.com, and in your locale around, whether you're in California or in New York or Daytona, and you can find a Bosch car service shop near you, you will find that, and it's been my experience, that the Bosch car owner, the shop owner, has a and I say this because I have so many associates and colleagues that are operate Bosch car services. They're the specialty guys. They're the people, like I talk about a lot, about the ASE trained technicians and certified technicians. They're the shops that strive to learn more about the technologies. It's always been my personal nature and my personal choice. But there's also standard procedures that we need to know about. If you heard earlier Jim and I discussing self-driving cars, I'll share with you now, while Jan takes your call at 888-227-2546, what's going on in Las Vegas. Visitors to Vegas are scuttling between the city's attractions, and now they can hop inside an autonomous shuttle bus, or a self-driving shuttle bus, we'll say, to take them to the next stop. It's touted as the first completely autonomous, fully electrical shuttle ever to be deployed on a public roadway in the United States. And I'll tell you that they dubbed it ARMA. And the Las Vegas mayor, Carolyn Goodman, jumped inside one of the high-tech shuttles Wednesday, a couple of weeks ago, for the inaugural ride, telling reporters, and I quote Carolyn Goodman, "Being the control freak that I am, I was very nervous to get on this vehicle, but it is clean, has beautiful air, and moves sort of swiftly, but so beautifully," end quote. And that's from Carolyn Goodman, who is the mayor of Las Vegas. And ARMA was unveiled in the city's Innovation District that launched last year in downtown Las Vegas. That's a self-driving vehicle that you've heard us speak of that's already in action in Las Vegas. That's very interesting, and no, it's not on rails. It's not like the shuttle that you see. It is a self-driving machine. How interesting. I also mentioned that I would share with you the cause of a battery drain in a Chevrolet, but first we'll take a call from Jim, and then we'll take your calls at 888-227-2546. Jim, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Thank you for taking my call, Bobby.
You're welcome.
I have an F-150 Ford 08 that I bought brand new. It's the 5.4. I'm not a car mechanic.
Okay.
I really like the truck, and into a couple of years into owning the truck, when I go to a stop sign, and this is intermittent, it has a mind of its own. When I go to a stop sign, it sounds like nuts and bolts are rattling. They've replaced my torque converter. I've put on new not mufflers, but what are the ones before the mufflers?
Right, resonators.
That stop the pollution.
Right. Catalytic converters.
Catalytic converters,
yes,
right. And I've put on the coils. They changed the plugs in the coils to the tune of $800, and no one can seem to fix it. And I'm ready to bring it to your shop.
Yeah, I hear you. Jim, let me ask you a question. This noise, you hear it only when you come to a stop or a red light and stop, and at what temperature? Hot, cold, or give me a little more information.
It's it's normal temperature.
Okay.
I'll be driving, and,
All right.
and it'll be normal temperature. Sometimes it'll do it, sometimes it won't, and it's only when you idle. And I have to put it in neutral, give it gas, and the engine sounds perfect when I give it gas. It's only when I come to an idle, and it's intermittent, but it does it quite a bit.
Those engines are known for timing chain noise. That is a like some of those in that era, and I'm not sure 08 is involved, but it sounds like it because you spent the $800 for the plugs. Bad coils or defective coil 1, 2, number 4. I mean, ultimately, we put the whole 8 on the cars, but spark plugs in that spark plugs in that vehicle, not necessarily your 08 5.4, but the 07 I know. Are prone to break off because Ford came out with an emissions designed spark plug that had an extension that wasn't part of the spark plug. They took a regular spark plug and they made a flare on the end of the regular spark plug, and in this flare they crimped like you would crimp a fuel line or you know, like you would put a belt around your waist and it would crimp your waist. They crimped about a 1-inch extension onto the spark plug, and this 1-inch extension puts and moves the igniter point, the electrode and the ground and the spark, an inch deeper into the chamber. Now what this does is and I made this analogy years ago before this plug was ever designed, when Hemis were out, because the Hemi chamber has the spark plug in the middle of the chamber. So if you were going to light a fire and you put sticks on at a fire, you'd start it from the middle so it would spread out. So if you had that option in a combustion chamber, you would want to do that to start the fire in the middle, so that the propagation, the flame front it's called, would spread evenly throughout and faster across the cylinder. In other words, if you're going to start a fire in a room, you wouldn't start it in one corner, you start it in the middle and it would spread more quickly to the whole room. Same thing as inside the room or the combustion chamber. I said all that to say this. It was a bad idea because the metal part that they crimped onto the plugs in the 5.4 Ford V8 it was the same size as the hole that it was inserted through, the same size, well, plus maybe a few thousandths clearance. What would happen is that plug would become part of the combustion chamber, it would get carbon buildup, and when a technician would unscrew the spark plug, the end of that plug would have to scrape the carbon off, and it would not be able to. Before it would pull that extension out of the chamber, it would dislodge the crimp and the spark plug would come out. It would break, of course, because the porcelain was all one piece. The porcelain would break, the end of the plug would break, and that would be lodged into the chamber. And to that end, it was so prevalent that the aftermarket came out with a tool to emergency retrieve or remove the broken piece from the chamber. And in the worst case scenario, you had to dismantle the engine, pull the head off to get the broken piece out of the chamber if you weren't able to extract it. Now, having said that, that's a part of issues that all Ford F-150s, and I'm proud to say that our lead ASE certified technician, who's also going not only as a master, which means in all 8 categories he has his certification, he also is going for what we call a doctorate, and which is a next level of education. Johnny Bars, he is our shop foreman. He's the lead diagnostician and tester we have in the house here at Bobby Likis Car Clinic. And I will tell you, he came up with, and not only did he, but it was a collaboration with all of our efforts and our teams. So I will say that we came up with a method that all but ensures we do not break a spark plug in this event. And to my knowledge, I think he's broken one spark plug in the last 8 of those procedures of replacing plugs and coils.
And in that case, he was still able to get that plug out without having to dismantle the engine. So it's a unique process. It requires leaving the vehicle overnight because of the prep that we do on this particular issue. Now, shift gears more directly into your noise. I have to believe that it is a timing chain or a guide for the timing chain or a tensioner for the timing chain, because those engines are prone to make noise. So that's the most information that I could give you. And I guess the question that I have for you, Jim, have you actually sat in the car with a technician and had the technician to hear the very noise that you're concerned about?
Absolutely. And so I also brought it to the mechanics that came highly recommended that weren't with the dealer. It's a dieseling sound. Remember in the 60s?
Yes. Yes.
When you shut your car off, it'd run for 20 minutes. It's that sound. It's a dieseling noise that it makes.
Okay.
And I think it'll stall out if you don't put it in neutral and give it gas.
Well, let me say this. An engine, an engine that has some... See, now you've opened another thought that I have, so I'll just briefly say this. Let's say that you had a perfectly healthy engine, and it had all the parts moving around, and the timing gears, chains. Your vehicle has chains, and overhead cams, and they're noisy. I mean, by nature, they're noisy. I have a 13 engine, and it too has noisy chains, always that way since it was new. It's normal. I don't like it, but it's normal. It also has, my car, direct injection, and direct injectors are noisy as well. So if you and your ears were to hear my engine crank up in my garage, as I do every morning, you would say, wow, that's a lot of noise there. And because it is. As a rule and as a general procedure, I always put my windows down in my car, all of my windows down, and open the sunroof and retract the headliners, because I like to use all the electronics, and I like to know when and if one of them doesn't work. And then this airs the car out at night as well to keep the evaporator core, because I live in Pensacola, Florida, and in Florida we've got a lot of humidity here. So having said that, every morning when I get in with my windows down, if I crank my engine before I put all the windows up and close the sunroof on my car, all that noise bounces off the walls. And I've got a 2-car garage, and I will tell you, it amplifies the noise 3 times. So I said all that to say, and I'll say to you that if your engine had a misfire and you said it would go dead at times, there could be normal metallic noises coming from an engine that is shaking and rattling and rolling because it's not idling smoothly, because it's not hitting on all 8 cylinders. So you just may be onto something. I'm glad you called me, Jim, because what needs to be addressed, and one final question, does the check engine light come on?
No.
Has anybody...
That's
okay. Did the technician read for codes even with the check engine light not on?
Oh, that I can't tell you. I just was at their mercy. I just dropped the truck off. And
okay.
It has less than 100,000 miles on it, and they're easy miles.
I'm with you. So in closing, here's what I would recommend. I would recommend that you go back to either the dealer or the other independent, the people you trust, and you've obviously got a dialogue with them on this because they haven't been able to find it. I would suggest that they look at and read the codes in the vehicle, not the codes that make the check engine light come on, but for any codes that are existing, and specifically codes like or readings like fuel trim. So remember that, Jim. Remember that. That is one of our... I mean, when you go to a doctor, you know, you open your mouth, you say, they do a blood pressure test, and that's the first thing they do. That's a normal procedure. For all mechanical repair shops that are trained, and you all have to be trained to work on today's cars, the first procedure we do is to see if there are any codes that are buried in the computer but not making the light come on. We do that because it's called a fuel trim, and that fuel trim gives us a history of how the vehicle ran if it was too lean or too rich. And it has to be within a parameter. So that's what I would recommend for you, Fabio. That's what I'd recommend for you to go back and have them read the codes. And I thank you for your call. And folks, next hour coming up, we have Jay Berry. So for all of you boat owners, this would be a fantastic opportunity for you to call in and ask your question about what are the facts and what about phase separation, what about gas tanks, and what about engines, and what about high octane ethanol-based fuels. Jay Berry is going to be in the house as a co-host of mine via hotline. So I'll see you after the top of the break for the second hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Likis, you'll love us.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic is a copyrighted presentation of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated and may not be reproduced or rebroadcast without the express written approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Berryman's B12 Chem Tool features HEST, or High Energy Solvent Technology. The combination of HEST and powerful detergents help maximize one-tank cleanup of intake valves, fuel injectors, carburetors, and combustion chambers. But don't take our word for it. Here's another HEStimonial. Kevin's Porsche made a coughing noise and generated a small backfire at startup. Within 2 weeks of using just one can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool, the problem was gone. Learn more about Berryman products and their HEST technology at berrymanproducts.com. That's berrymanproducts.com.
Driving has a rhythm all its own. Don't wreck it with a text. Before you get behind the wheel, silence your phone. Or better yet, designate a texter. For more text-free driving tips, visit stoptextstoprex.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council and the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
If you're familiar with the Kulseford section of the newspaper, you probably understand this message quite well. You see, in the Kulseford section, everything gets abbreviated. Consonants, vowels, prepositional phrases, the very building blocks of our language are thrown right out the window. And that makes it difficult when you're trying to sell your car. You've got a limited amount of space to work with, and by the time you abbreviate the description of your car down to a couple of fragmented sentences, it sounds less like a car and more like a Bluck sedan with sniffed like new condition lemurs. No wonder more people are selling their cars through eBay Motors. They can post unlimited text and photo descriptions, and with a nationwide marketplace, they're likely to sell it for more. Plus, both parties can be covered by eBay's vehicle protection program. Buyers are happy, sellers are happy, and no one's abbreviating. eBay Motors, a better way to sell your car.
Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 3-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Bobby Likis Car Clinic begins at 6 minutes after the hour. Countdown to 1-minute mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 30-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Countdown to 10-second mark. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, mark. Welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. If you have a car question for Bobby, call now at 1-800-264-5454, toll free from anywhere in America. And now, here's your host, Bobby Likis.
And thank you, Marty White. Hi, folks. Welcome to this hour of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Going to have a special hour for you. We're going to actually put our phone on conference so that we can conference more than just one caller in at the same time. Why? Because we're going to have Jay Berry joining us for this first segment on Bobby Likis Car Clinic and also throughout the program. Now, he's a special guest. He's sort of my co-host. Although he's not sitting next to me in the studio, it will be as though he is, because he'll be able to answer your questions. So for all of you boat owners, this is a great opportunity for you to find out what's going on in the world of boating. This segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you by Stant Corporation, makers of the Super Stat. Reach for the thermostat professional installers prefer. Learn more about the Super Stat and Stant's entire collection of aftermarket caps and thermostats at stant.com. Also, I'll remind you, this segment of Bobby Likis Car Clinic is brought to you in part by Power Frame Grid Technology. Batteries containing Power Frame grids are engineered with confidence to ensure you can trust them start after start. And folks, look for the Power Frame logo on the outside of the next new battery you buy, and just know that you're getting true strength on the inside. You can learn more at powerframe.com. Coming up, your calls at 888, get online, 888-227-2546 when I come back with Jay Berry. You're moving fast, and you don't want anything to slow you down, especially an unreliable battery. The next time your car needs a new battery, choose one with Power Frame Grid technology inside. It's engineered with confidence to be 66% more durable than other grid designs and provide you with true strength every time you need it. Look for Power Frame on the outside for true strength on the inside. Visit Advanced Auto Parts or CarQuest for a battery with Power Frame Grid technology, or learn more at powerframe.com. That's powerframe.com. Stant is the expert when it comes to radiator caps, thermostats, and fuel caps, supplying manufacturers as far back as Henry Ford's Model A. For OE performance, you can trust that Stant fuel caps will deliver. A leaking fuel cap is more than just the pain of a check engine light. Evaporating fuel costs money. Stant fuel caps are built so well they can even seal with part of the cap broken away, helping to keep you safe. Stant has locking caps, too. Drive to Stant.com or your local retailer today. That's Stant.com. This Tire Maintenance Minute is brought to you by General Tire and the Ultimax RT43. Featuring replacement tire technology, the Ultimax RT43 will actually let you know if it's worn or needs to be replaced. Today's vehicles run on the sum of their parts to make themselves whole. Your tires deliver key information for things like traction control, analog brakes, and crash avoidance systems. Tires are a critical component for all-wheel drive vehicles, making sure the all-wheel drive system works properly to keep you safe. Changing just 2 tires instead of 4 can compromise a number of things, including all-wheel drive operation, and in some vehicles even cause damage and wear to the all-wheel drive components. If you do replace just 2, make sure to put them on the rear of the vehicle. Also, always check tread depth and condition, and make sure you rotate your tires at required intervals. General Tire's Ultimax RT43 actually extends the life of the tire by visually identifying vehicle misalignment. Talk about a smarter tire. Visit GeneralTire.com for more details.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Another lending success story from LendingTree.com.
Car dealers like playing games. They play percentage points, they play markups, but I don't like playing with my money. So I got my auto loan through LendingTree.com. I filled out one simple form, a marketplace of banks and lenders competed over it, and I got 4 offers back within hours. After all, the car buying game is a lot easier to win when you're holding all the cards.
LendingTree.com. When banks compete, you win. For additional information and state license disclosures, please visit our website located at LendingTree.com.
Hospice isn't a place, it's a face. And Regency Hospice delivers more faces to you and your loved one when life matters most. Faces of nurses, nursing assistants, social workers, and chaplains. Regency's skilled, compassionate professionals deliver comfort and individualized care. When that time of life comes to you, Regency Hospice will be there for you. Go to regencyhospice.com for more, including Hospice for Heroes Veterans Recognition Program.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And I want to welcome you to this special edition of Bobby Likis Car Clinic. For those of you who may have just tuned in, Bobby Likis Car Clinic is categorized as a car talk program, but we started that way. And as a businessman, a small businessman, and the owner of Bobby Likis Car Clinic for some 46 years and counting, to this day, we spend 50 or 60 hours per week in the trenches every day maintaining and repairing automobiles. and we have had more than 200,000 cars that roll through our doors over our 45 years in business and more, to share with them and to help those individuals with their automobile needs, whether it's repairs, and I'm speaking of everything from a simple flat tire to wiper blades to fuel injectors to major engine damage. You name it, we've done it. And we continue every week, day by day, 50 or 60 hours in that same atmosphere and that same work environment. I share this with you because so many of you have called me over the years to ask me questions about how to maintain or how to repair your automobile. To that end, years ago, during my racing era, I raced a rear-engine dragster that was a 500 cubic inch, normally aspirated, which means no supercharger, no turbocharger dragster. That was very fast. It ran 200 miles an hour almost, and in the high 7-second range, and that was in the mid-70s. Prior to that, I ran a much slower car, but I used alcohol fuel. So I understood and I liked alcohol fuel. Fast forward to today, and we hear so much about, and you've heard so much about ethanol from me, I thought this would be a great opportunity for you to call in and not only ask me, but ask a special guest. And to that end, I want to welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic, Jay Berry. And folks, Jay Berry is a farmer. He's founder of Central Indiana Ethanol, and more importantly to the point, because this program is not a sponsored program, it's a program that I'm bringing to you, and especially to all of the boat owners, not only along the Gulf Coast of Florida, which is where we originate and where our Car Clinic studios are located, but also around the globe. So if you have a question about your boat engine, gas tank, fuels, oils, I started to say tires, but no tires on a boat, or at least not on the boat itself, then this is your place. This is your great lucky day, and I will give you this number, 888 Car Clinic. Miss Jan will take your call, and I can even conference you in with Jay Berry, who is joining us, so that you can ask Jay specific questions about what he knows, what he provides to the fuel industry, and how he does is boat racing and the industry at large. So with that, the number for you to call is 888 Car Clinic. I'll make it easy for you. 888-227-2546. Jay Berry from Marion, Indiana. Jay, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Glad to have you in the house.
Hey, thank you, Bobby. Thanks for having us come on and giving us the opportunity to help educate people out there about the benefits of ethanol, dispel some of the myths, and looking forward to a good discussion with you.
Well, to that end, Jay, and I'll share this with everyone tuned in. This is a live broadcast. Jay is with us live. He's as though he's sitting in the seat. And Jay, we call this a co-host because you're not here just as a caller. You're actually on our hotline, which brings you right into the studio. And folks, I can tune you in, and you simply call 888 Car Clinic if you have a question for Jay. So Jay, I'll turn the mic to you. And in the meantime, give us an overview of Jay Berry and Ignite Racing Fuel.
Well, I'm a farmer from Marion, Indiana. Back in the early 2000s, decided at 22 years old that I wanted to build an ethanol plant, and went out and raised money and created Central Indiana Ethanol here, and started really looking at, trying to understand the fuel better. It's one thing to make something, and a lot of people, there was a lot of questions out there about what does ethanol do. So I really immersed myself into starting to understand the fuel, and we started playing with it. We knew what the advantages were to the consumer, but I wanted to learn more about the fuel, so we started playing with it in the racing world, and that's a great area to be able to test to see what the benefits are. So that's kind of how we got started. Was first building the plant, and then from there creating a higher grade of ethanol and getting it into racing. Kind of some friends asked me to do it, and it was by accident, and here we are today with the fastest cars, boats, UTVs, and in the world, and it's really opened a lot of doors, and it's been a great way for us to be able to prove how great ethanol really is out there to the consumer.
You mentioned higher grade ethanol. I thought, and I'm so glad we're having this discussion today, because I thought that ethanol at an ethanol plant came out as 200 proof pure grain alcohol. Of course, it's denatured with the addition of gasoline. But how do you make a higher grade ethanol? I thought ethanol was ethanol whether it came from corn or from corn stalks or from trees.
Well, ethanol, there are different types. You got the amount of moisture into it, also the type of distillation systems that are out there. And I guess really what I meant to say is we were not really creating a higher grade of an alcohol, but actually blending it with a better denaturant source with different additives, different things, testing to see how those would work, in the engines.
Therein lies the biggest challenge, I think it has been for me and for so many people. And folks, we're talking with Jay Berry from Indiana. If you had a call, I actually first was introduced to Jay and had my first conversation during my keynote speech and my great visit to the Indy 500 at the Andretti race camp with Ken Parent from the Indiana Corn Council. And you mentioned the different variants and the different mixtures of, I guess you're talking about gasoline and ethanol, right?
Correct. There's a lot of misperceptions out there. Ethanol is a great fuel source. It is 116 octane. All over the country, every day I answer questions from people with E85 or with issues with E15 that aren't sure why maybe their cars are acting a little bit funny. Maybe they're having some hesitation or plugged injector issues. And the one thing I spend a lot of time educating the people about, it's not the ethanol that causes the issues. It's the other denaturants that are blended with the ethanol that causes the problems a lot of guys like you see out there in the automotive world when you're out there working on things. Pump E85 is blended 51 to 80% with ethanol, and there really isn't a specific spec that ethanol has to be blended with at the pump for E85. So a lot of times you get the oil companies take a dirtier, lower grade of gasoline, and that's what they blend with their ethanol. And that's one of the reasons why we see such a higher mileage loss. To me, I think E85 should be blended with 84 to 85 octane gas, and that would get us in that maybe 8 to 12% mileage loss range, where a lot of people are seeing 15 to 30% mileage loss. It's not the ethanol; it's the stuff that it's blended with, and that's kind of the same thing we're also seeing with some of the pumps with E15. E15 is a great fuel. Ethanol is amazing. But the issue that we've got is we're allowing the oil companies to take a lower grade of gas, blend it with a little bit more ethanol, and it boosts their octane ratings. And as you know, Bobby, if you take a lower grade of gas, what does that do in your engine? What does that do with your filters?
Gasoline's dirty.
Your injectors? I mean, I imagine in your years of service, you've seen those issues.
We have, and to that end, I think of, and folks, we're talking with Jay Berry from Indiana, and we invite your calls. If you've got a question, now is a great time for you to get in at 888-227-2546. So Jay, the additives that are used in gasoline, and specifically Argonne National Lab, which almost anyone is familiar with Argonne National Lab, produced results, and one of their recent releases stated that there are, and get this folks, more than 1,000 chemicals in gasoline. And of those 1,000 chemicals in gasoline, each chemical has its own burn rate. So here you have, and Jay, it's amazing really when you think about it. You mentioned that oil companies make like 84 octane, and then they put 113 plus ethanol to bring it up to 87 to sell it. But there's still 1,000 chemicals in there that burn at different rates. So different chemicals that are in there. So I guess what I'm saying, I can dictate, if I'm the oil companies, what the product is by using 10 or 15% ethanol, because I'm supplying 85% of the mix, right?
Correct, exactly. And ethanol is a cheap, we call it cheap horsepower, but is a great octane enhancer. It's also safer than any of the other additives that are out there on the market. Ethanol is nothing more than drinking alcohol that has denaturant added into it, so you can't. One of the big misperceptions out there is, why is ethanol plugging my injectors? Ethanol is a solvent. It's a cleaner.
To that end, Jay, excuse me for interrupting. We have a hard break coming up. Jay, you stay right there. I see James is calling in. And folks, when I come back, more. Folks, we recently worked on an 03 Buick Park Avenue with a 3.8 engine. This vehicle had been a workhorse with about 190,000 miles and counting. That said, fuel economy had slipped from 24 mpg highway all the way to 19. On cold startup, the check engine light started flashing in addition to rough idling. Engine fuel trims pointed toward carbon issues. A quick scan revealed random misfire code P0300. The codes were cleared, and after a visual inspection of the ignition system and a fuel filter change, we added a can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool to a fresh tank of fuel. After a 400-mile round trip and a second can of Berryman B12 Chem Tool, fuel economy went right back to 24 mpg and idle quality was restored. Many times, complex running issues are traced to carbon issues on today's vehicles. Fuel system maintenance today starts with simple tank additives as the first step in cleaning carbon from your engine. The next time your vehicle is sluggish or experiencing poor fuel economy, try Berryman B12 Chem Tool. Learn more at berrymanproducts.com. I'm Bobby Likis with today's Vehicle Maintenance Spotlight, brought to you by O'Reilly Auto Parts. Here's a crash course in brake parts before you have a crash. Master cylinders distribute brake fluid to wheels. Calipers and wheel cylinders convert pressurized brake fluid into stopping power. Brake pads and shoes protect calipers from friction caused by stopping. To be safe, include your entire braking system in regular maintenance. Visit O'Reilly Auto Parts for a wide selection of quality brakes. O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly. If it's hard to stop or you hear squealing and grinding noises during braking, stop by O'Reilly Auto Parts. You'll find the brake parts you need from trusted brands like Brake Best Select, and Wagner Thermoquiet at everyday low prices. Play it safe with brake parts from O'Reilly Auto Parts. Better parts, better prices every day.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Telephone
From Geico Auto Insurance.
When calling Geico to switch your car insurance, you will not need acetaminophen, naproxen, indomethacin, ibuprofen, a cold compress, an on-call acupuncturist, or any other pain remedy. In 15 minutes, you could save 15% or more. If it were any more painless, you could do it in your sleep, which is theoretically possible since we offer complete 24-hour service. Call 1-800-947-AUTO, 1-800-947-AUTO. Geico Direct, the sensible alternative.
When you purchase the latest TV, tablet, or smartphone, don't forget to do the right thing with your old ones. Recycle them. The Consumer Technology Association and its members are making recycling your old devices as easy as buying new ones. Just go to greenergadgets.org, type in your zip code, and you'll instantly find the recycling location closest to your home. You'll also find recycling tips, like asking the store where you buy your new TV if they'll haul away your old one. Don't let your old tech tools clog your local landfill. Just visit greenergadgets.org.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Great program this hour. Feel free to call in at 888-227-2546. With us, special guest Jay Berry. Jay Berry is the founder, of course, of Ignite Racing Fuels. And Jay, I really haven't given you the opportunity, thanks for joining us, but I really haven't given you the opportunity to talk about your racing fuel, who buys your racing fuel, and just give us an overview of Ignite Racing Fuel so we can compare the performance and what you bring to that industry.
Well, at Ignite Racing Fuel, our specialty is working on high-performance engines. We have been able to break into the boating market. It's kind of one of the misperceptions out there is that you can't run ethanol on boats, and then we have 150 to 200 of the fastest boats in the world, and even guys with pleasure boats now running 90% ethanol in their boats. And we've been working hard on new markets. We now have the world's fastest wave runner, so it's down for you guys down there in the Florida area. We're working with some guys out of Miami. They just set a record at 118.5 miles an hour on a wave runner that's running our fuel, so we have a couple hundred of those. And we're excited. We're going into things that, everybody says the AMA, American Motorcycle Association, is anti-ethanol, so we're busy focused on, We've got the world's fastest motorcycle right now with Ransom Holbrook, 254 miles an hour on a Hayabusa 1300, and we're excited just to be able to work with different groups and educate them on the positive attributes of ethanol. That way they're not, when they go to the pump and they fill up with either E10 or E15, they're not afraid of it. So it's a great way for us to get a grassroots message out there to everybody.
I understand that the one particular boat comes to mind is the Cat Can Do. Give us an overview. Is it not correct that the Cat Can Do shut down the competition in a 100-mile race? And if so, share with our Car Clinic listeners how that went.
Yeah, Keith Holmes with Cat Can Do was one of our first guys to start running the fuel in the offshore. He runs OPA and SBI. Won several events this past year. Went out, and they're running 165 all the way up to 190 miles an hour up in Lake Michigan, Lake the Ozarks, and down in the ocean down there in Miami, and then down at Key West. He lapped second and third place in a 100-mile race event, and has had a lot of great success. The amount of horsepower gain that we're seeing in his engines is 250 to 300 horsepower per an engine, and that's not even turning them all the way up. We've gained even more than that, but we backed them back down to a conservative level versus what they were running with race gas.
And that is primarily due to the high performance, high octane properties that ethanol, when ethanol is added to gasoline, whether it's 10%, 15%, or 85%, or as you said, 90%. And let me understand, you said that some pleasure boats are using 90% ethanol?
Yes, they are. I'm working a lot with a lot of the boat companies. One of them is Skater Boats. A lot of their customers now are, they're putting dual tunes in, so when they're out cruising around, they're idling, they're running gas. When they go out on the lake or out on the ocean, they flip another button and they're running our E90. They're actually developed technology and are actually putting two different tanks in their boats to be able to run our fuel.
Well, to that end, for the last 5 years, Ford Motor Company had a huge R&D venture that was a dual fuel engine, where they too were using, of course, two different fuels, ethanol gasoline blend, and also diesel fuel for the ignite properties of diesel fuel, and then the cleaner properties of ethanol blended gasolines. What I'd like to do now, Jay, is we have a couple of callers, and for those callers, we're going to go to James, and we're going to put James on the conference with us. And so, James, I want to welcome you to today's broadcast with Jay Berry. Glad to have you join us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Likis. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's good to hear from you, James. And to that end, just for you to know, because we have open line here, I see that we also have a gentleman, Victor, that's joined us as well. So I'm going to put Victor on. And now this is a first. Well, maybe not a first, but it's unusual. But we actually have three individuals on the microphone, plus yours truly, right now. And so, Victor, I'd like to welcome you from Washington.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And so first, James had called in first. So James, you have a question for Jay Berry.
Yes, Jay. How do you handle the separation of water on a boat with your new fuel product? Is there a way in which you've come up with something new?
Where you come up with more on the phase separation is with the lower blends of fuel, like an E15 or an E10. The higher amounts of alcohol or already a drier ethanol is, by ASTM spec, is allowed to be up to 0.6% of water, which is actually very little, and we're well below that. The thing that we're working with the boating industry is adding different types. The moisture's coming in through the vents, so we're actually looking at adding like a baffle system, and it's something that we haven't seen. Any of our boat guys have not had that issue with what we're doing. The issue that when you have that happen is if your boat may sit for 2 to 3 months or longer, is where they're seeing maybe a slight possibility of that. But it's been so far with the boats that we're working with, they have not had no issues.
And James, to that end, and Jay, I'll add this, and you said ethanol is a dryer. No doubt, not only is ethanol a dryer, but it's an antifreeze. And so for years, let's say if you lived in New York or in the state of Washington, as I see that Victor does, then you may in the wintertime had bought some dry gas, they used to call it. And the irony of this, I smile because dry gas was alcohol. And those very same companies that make products like that include alcohol no longer really have a product that the market that needs, because ethanol is in an essence a dry gas and an antifreeze. So it's kind of ironic how the worm has turned, but that's where myths and truth and facts come to the surface. And so again, folks, we'll invite you to call in 888 Car Clinic, 888-227-2546. Jay Berry is the founder of Ignite Racing Fuel, supplies high blends of octane, of ethanol, of course, to boats, but also almost pure ethanol in some cases. So, James, in essence, what your question was referring to was phase separation. And I will say this, because it is a fact. Water in gasoline will phase separate immediately, because gasoline can only suspend, and to suspend means to emulsify, 0.15 teaspoons of water. So if you have a boat, not ethanol, if you have a boat that is stored, Jay, and you talked about this, for a couple of months or longer, and there's 70% humidity, 70 degrees Fahrenheit, it's required about 2.5 months or 2.7 months as the chemistry goes to get water into gasoline that will phase separate. So that means that the gasoline can only hold 0.15 teaspoons. Well, Jay, as you said, ethanol can hold 4 teaspoons or 26 times more water. So if you put ethanol into a boat tank that has water, and you say, oh, wait, it's caused phase separation. The fact is that phase separation would have happened long before, because water that was in there and the gasoline that was in there couldn't suspend any water but 0.15 teaspoons. So there's the real fact with regard to phase separation. And this is not a pro or a con broadcast, folks. This broadcast is sponsored by Bobby Likis Car Clinic, and it's about the boat industry, it's about your cars, it's about the truth and the facts, and what I have learned, and what individuals I've met, like Jay Berry, that are in the business, but also in the boating and the racing business. So James, I want to thank you for your question. Does that answer your question? Does that help you to better understand how boats and ethanol and the industry can coexist and even have an asset to have ethanol?
It does.
One other thing I'd like to add real quick, Bobby, to that.
Just a minute, please.
Up ahead on the Detroit River.
Okay. Thank you, James. Thank you very much. Now we'll go to Victor. Victor, I think you said something, sir?
Yes. Now, a lot of farmers have some crop in distress. They basically can't sell, like maybe different than corn, oats, or barley, or wheat that's sprouted and so forth. Can they develop, or do they have a way of, or be economically to use that those crops in distress where the farmers would have a safety valve when they get stuck and get in very heavy financial distress on account of a crop that won't move?
Yes, that's a very good question. Anything with starch you can make ethanol out of. There are a lot of different things that are used besides corn. There is wheat, there's sorghum. Out west, there's a lot of potatoes, because you hear about potato vodka. There's actually plants that use that, also sugar beets. So, yes, there are alternative options out there for farmers in case of a catastrophic something happens, piles of grain sitting around, they can't go anywhere with it. That is a very viable source for ethanol, and it is used in the ethanol process today.
Yeah. Now the alcohol plants, of course, are they're not close to the farmer sometimes, so the freight would maybe what can they pay for that? Does the price drop a lot on a crop in distress, or it is something they aren't used to using, like corn or something? And so is it so cheap that freight and so forth would make it kind of impossible to use it anyway, or is there some way to make it so it would work right?
It all depends on what the freight prices are, coming FOB back to the plants. So it's one of those things, is a dollar and cents. You got to see what is alcohol going for, what is the cost of it coming in. So it is viable and it is used. Like I said, it just depends on the freight cost out there.
Well, that's a very good question that you bring up, Victor, and I do know, in fact, as far back as Henry Ford, when he talked about the renewable fuels that he endorsed, which, by the way, the irony of all this, folks, is that America's first flex fuel car, and Jay, you know this, I'm sure, was a 1908 Model T Ford that would run on ethanol blends or gasoline or a mixture of both. And Henry Ford's first car, which was a quadro cycle, actually ran on 100% ethanol, and that was in 1897. So what is really old is new, and now we have even better technology. Victor, I want to thank you for your participation and for your question. We've got a break coming up, and Jay, when we come back from this break, I have some more questions, and I'm sure that our listeners have questions as well for Jay Berry. And Jay is a farmer. He also is the founder of Ignite Racing Fuel, and he's a guru with regard to racing. We're going to hear more about the racing part when I come back, and your questions at 888-227-2546. And now to the Car Clinic inbox. Mike writes, Bobby, driving in Seattle's rainy weather, I've lost traction in my car enough times to scare me. What tires should I consider when it's time to replace mine? Mike, if you're losing traction, now may be the time to replace your tires. A terrific choice is General Tire's Ultimax RT43 with its peak anti-slip design technology, which increases the number of biting edges for traction on slippery roads. And you won't have to guess or measure tread depth when it's time to replace these tires. The Ultimax RT43 features an integrated replacement tire monitor, which clearly reads, replace when a tire change is needed. And one more cool feature of the Ultimax RT43, Early Warning Visual Alignment Indicator, which extends tire life by visually identifying vehicle misalignment. For more information about the Ultimax RT43, go to GeneralTire.com. That's GeneralTire.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
More than 1 million wild animals are killed each year illegally. Poaching is a major threat to our country's wildlife. I'm Tom Barry. I'm an actor with a desire to preserve living space for wildlife. The Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust does just that. Works with private landowners to protect wildlife, to preserve natural habitats. To learn more or to work with the Humane Society Wildlife Land Trust, call 800-729-SAVE. That's 800-729-SAVE, or visit wildlifelandtrust.org. Thank you.
Did you know 26 million Americans have kidney disease and most don't know it?
The day I was diagnosed, I didn't know what to do. I called the National Kidney Foundation, and the young lady who answered stayed on the phone with me and walked me through step by step. She too was surviving kidney disease, and she showed me there could be life after kidney disease.
Visit the National Kidney Foundation at kidney.org. Now you know.
We're a land of cynics. We don't believe anything anymore. You know why? Because we've been told we've won $1 million, that it's new and improved, that it slices and dices, that our favorite singer is still alive, that we'll be prosecuted if we cut off the tags, and of course that everything is backed with a 100% money-back guarantee. So when we hear the words customer service, we don't believe it. Travelocity isn't surprised if you're a little skeptical when they say they have excellent customer service, and that there's actually a pleasant face behind this website. A living, breathing person with a supercharged computer full of answers. Someone who's willing to help when you get lost, and most of all, someone that will actually pick up the phone when you call with a question or a concern. Customer service is just another example of how Travelocity puts you in control of travel. Chances are you'll never have to use it, but it's good to know it'll be there if you need it. Travelocity.com. Go virtually anywhere.
And now back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and your host, Bobby Likis.
And welcome back to today's special broadcast. With us is Jay Berry, and Jay is the founder of Ignite Racing Fuel and also a guru with regard to the assets and how to use ethanol to our advantage, and not only in racing but also in the boat manufacturing world, and that spreads over to, as you know, the automobiles that you and I drive every day. Jay, thanks for taking the time and spending the time with us today, and congratulations on Ignite Racing Fuel. A quick question of you, who buys your racing fuel? Is it all relegated to cells in the United States in the area?
Well, we sell direct. You could be anywhere in the United States, and we'll ship it direct to you. We sell fuel down to Costa Rica, Panama, the Caribbean. We've got fuel out in Dubai, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, Bahrain, Qatar. Just actually today, before I came on, we were busy loading up some fuel, sending it on its way to Norway and Sweden and Germany. So we send fuel all over the country, and we're educating the people all over the world about the benefits of ethanol, and it's exciting being able to see people try something that is new for the first time, and getting the videos, because I don't speak their language, they don't speak mine, but when you get a video of a guy with a big thumbs up and that universal big smile, it makes you feel good. You said Dubai. How do you ship ethanol to Dubai and these other countries? Load it up. They buy mostly drums or 5-gallon pails, load it up onto a transport trailer, and send it down to the railroad. From there it goes to a barge, and then 32 days from the time it leaves my shop, takes 32 days to get down to Dubai. And what's the shelf life? Ethanol never loses its potency. Ethanol is good for over 2 years. Unlike racing gas or methanol that starts losing its kick from the day that it's made, ethanol does not do that. That's very interesting. Folks, we invite your participation. 888-CAR-CLINIC-JEN. We'll take your call, put you in the queue, and I'll put you on the air with Jay. And in fact, Jay's joining us today for what we call a Car Clinic co-host. So he is my co-host. And Jay, it's great. Folks get to hear another voice beside mine. And to that end, we're going to go now from the center of the automotive universe here, and you're in Indiana, to Tom in Missouri. So Tom called in and has a question about the availability of ethanol. I'll turn the mic now to Tom. Tom, welcome to Bobby Likis Car Clinic with Jay Berry.
Good morning, Bobby and Mr. Berry.
Good morning.
How are you guys today?
Good morning, Tom.
I just basically have a question on availability of like E85, really. Here in Missouri, I live in southern Missouri, and we're basically corn country all over, but I can't find a E85 pump anywhere. We did have one for a couple of months, a couple of years ago, and I used to blend my tank half and half just in a regular old truck with E85 and E10, and it ran perfect and was a little cheaper, but for the most part, E85 was always more expensive than gasoline, the regular E10. I was just wondering, is that ever going to change, or why? What's the cause of that? Why is it more expensive? Well, ethanol is cheaper than gas. That was kind of one of the ways that the oil companies they kind of box us out. I've put in several E85 pumps and stations on top of doing racing fuel. And it's unfair to some of the retailers that want to carry E85. Sometimes if you go to a retailer, their island is not under the canopy. Or they'll make the retailer say, hey, you can carry E85, but you can't be priced within X amount of what our 87 octane is. So it's really hard to be able to break into those guys, into those doors, because even though you can be an independent gas station, you can't put in what you want, because a lot of the gas stations out there don't own their dispensers or their canopies. Marathon, Shell, Citgo, those guys will actually pay for those, and so they kind of hold the retailer. They kind of got them, They don't have the option that they would like to have. How do we get that changed then? I mean, we all should have our own choice, and like I said, it's hard. We're working on that right now. A lot of it has to do with the public, demanding and requesting to be able to run ethanol. And so there's a lot of legislation out there. There's a tool out there that is being used right now, Prime the Pump,
encouraging retailers to put in E85 along with E15. I would contact the Missouri corn growers, which are very strong and have done an absolute great job out there. And it really is kind of up to the state to kind of help. One of the states that we really are having major issues with is Arizona right now. Arizona has converted all of their E85 pumps over to, they're now running 54% ethanol. And I get probably 8 to 10 emails a day and at least 3 phone calls a day from people in Arizona trying to find a better E85 blend now because they don't like what the ethanol is being blended with over there. They're having major issues due to all the higher aromatics that are being blended in with the ethanol.
And so let me step in there, Tom and Jay. There's a mandate for the actual percentage of ethanol that must be in E85. So if you look at it at face value, 85 means 85% ethanol and 15% gasoline, but that's not the fact at all. And Jay,
Right.
as you just said, the 54% was or 51 or whatever the percentage you said, just meets the mandate. So whatever the manufacturer, which would be the oil company, would like to blend, they can blend the dirtiest, most aromatic, cheapest gasoline and then use 50+% and call it E85. Is that correct?
That is correct. I think kind of an interesting thing for your listeners, too, is I've done a lot of work with the Urban Air Initiative with FixOurFuel.com, and what the consumers are not aware of, the oil companies, when they send their fuel in for an EPA certification, the EPA doesn't come out to any pump like in your hometown and pull a gallon out and take it back and ship it. Each oil company sends their own certification fuel into the EPA that is tested. In the ethanol industry, we've been kind of stuck because we know that ethanol is biodegradable, it's got less emissions, less particulate matter. But yet in E10 and E15, we're showing that we have higher emissions. Well, we're not allowed to be able to send our own certification fuel in to the EPA. This is something the consumer is unaware of, and it's something that has really given us a black eye out there with some of the environmental groups because, hey, there was some independent testing done that went to the actual retailers, and they pulled samples out and sent it into the exact same test facility that the EPA used, and it's a whole different story. So that's one thing that the consumers and the oil companies aren't being honest with the consumer because the consumer out there cannot buy a certification fuel. That is not what's in the pump.
Interesting.
You wonder why Volkswagen cheated on their emissions test.
Oh, yeah, that's a Tom, thank you so much for your participation. Take care. Very interesting. And folks, this is a special broadcast, courtesy and complimentary of Bobby Likis Car Clinic, yours truly. And it really is an educational forum today. And to that end, we're going to take another call from Las Vegas, Nevada. Captain Jim, I'd like to welcome you, welcome you back to Bobby Likis Car Clinic and introduce you to Jay Berry.
Hi, Jay. This is Captain Jim. I have a question for you. I was going to ask you about storage, but I understand you already covered that. So what I'm really interested in is, that yachts, we have to carry fuel on board for all the toys they have, such as skiffs, runabouts, jet skis, and so forth.
Correct.
If you have a ethanol blend fuel, how does it store, number one, on a boat? And also, what about the manufacturers, such as Mercury Outboard? How do they feel about that fuel?
We're doing a lot of tests right now with Mercury Outboards down in Florida. One of the guys that is part of my staff who I want to tell him to get well, his name is Dan Schwarzkopf, who's in Denver today, who's doing a chemo treatment and who's our fearless leader, is in charge of that program. But we are actually working on dyno testing with Mercury Outboards, but also with Hondas and other outboards right now. With the fuel in regards to storage, there's not an issue. The one thing that we are working on, like with Skater and some of the other boat manufacturers, is ethanol will eat through fiberglass. That is, we do know that. What they have done is created a new resin, a new composite for the boating industry that guys can have their tanks relined. And we're also working on making all boats today, have manufacturers looking at making everything up to E30 compatible, so there's nothing to worry about as we go forward for people purchasing boats and everything. So that's a couple of things that we're working on, and the information and the data, we'll be sharing that coming out here pretty soon. But we're pretty excited about the positive things that we're seeing in the outboard motors with being able to get up to RPM. Ethanol gains a lot more torque than gasoline or methanol, and so you hit RPM quicker, which means you get up to speed faster, but also burns cooler. The other advantage that I don't think we talk enough about for the boating industry, there's a lot of boats that catch on fires, there's a lot of spills. Ethanol is 100% biodegradable, so it is much better and much safer for the environment than gasoline with all the aromatics that are in it.
And I'd like to add here, Jay, just for your information and for our listeners' information, that the gentleman that's on the phone and asked this great question and talked about the toys on the boat is retired and was John Wayne's captain for, I don't know, Captain Jim, how many years were you John Wayne's captain?
Only for about 2.5 years is all.
Okay,
towards the end of his life.
Well, and so that's where the toys came from and the different machines that he had on board, because obviously you used diesel fuel for the ship, right?
Oh yeah, we carried 2 outboards. I think they were Johnsons at that time, and also jet skis.
Well, I sure thank you for your question. That's a great. Any other questions you might have of Jay?
Well, another thing that we've seen in the boating industry.
I appreciate all of this.
Wait, hold up just 1 minute, Jay. Captain Jim, you said you had one more question?
Oh, I'm sorry. No, I didn't.
Okay,
that
all right.
Pretty well covers it.
Okay,
Thanks.
I thank you so much for your participation. Have a great day, and thanks for it's a great question. And Jay, thank you.
Okay, thanks.
I want to share the price of gasoline because that's part of the mix, and no pun intended here. A year ago, and today's average price is $2.32.6. A year ago, in every region of the United States, and there are 10 regions, gasoline was cheaper than it is today. So the increase in the price of gasoline year to year is higher this week than it was a year ago. However, if you look at last week, the gasoline price in 9 of those 10 regions is reduced. But as we're seeing gasoline prices expand, you really can't look at one snippet like 1 week. You have to look at year over year and to get a trend of where it's going as well. And so, Jay, there's no question. And you mentioned that the price of ethanol is less expensive. I don't think that people really understand. And also, there's the ROI, and there's the net effect. And there are a couple things in this final few minutes that we have on air. People talk about the amount of BTUs in ethanol and the amount of BTUs in gas. And they say, well, the gasoline has more BTUs, 113,000 compared to 76,000. But it really, isn't it the octane asset of ethanol that makes the gasoline get the better gas mileage and power?
Yes, it is. Ethanol likes 2 things. It likes compression and it likes airflow. And you're exactly right. The octane is what helps equal a little bit more power, a little bit more torque. And it's kind of interesting that you bring that up because the OEMs, Ford, GM, Chrysler, Mercedes, a lot of these guys are doing a lot of research. In the United States, our octane levels in gas are 87. Almost everywhere else you go around the world, their minimum octane is either 99, 98, or 100 octane. So looking forward, to the future, the OEMs want to jump up and would like to get there. You can't do that on the type of gas that we've got here, the less refined. The only way to get you up there is to add more ethanol to boost your octane. In return, this allows the OEMs to be able to up their compression, adjust airflows, do a little bit different type of setups, but to be able to get a lot more efficiencies out of their engine.
So basically, what we're seeing here is the opportunity to progress and to grow higher compression, more efficient, smaller engines, and Ford's EcoBoost comes to mind. This year, Jay, the Raptor Ford has 400, out of a 3.5 V6 engine, 450 horsepower and 450 foot-pounds of torque, and that's absolutely amazing out of a small V6 engine. And that's primarily because they're using boost. And I'll have to share with you that a young technician that we hired at Car Clinic Service Pre-Repair recently came in, and my general manager asked him a question, and we both looked at each other and smiled. He turned to Michael Cannon, and Michael was out of the military. He's going for his ASE certifications. He said to Michael, "When I say ethanol, what comes to mind?" And I looked at Brennan, Brennan looked at me, and here's this 28-year-old young technician that said, "Turn up the boost." And and that's exactly what you've done, and I want to congratulate you for turning up the boost on ethanol and for taking the time to participate in my show today, Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
Well, thank you for having me on, Bobby. It's been great, and if anybody's got any questions out there, feel free to look us up online. We're on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, Ignite Racing Fuel. Shoot us questions. If you got a question, no matter where you are in the country or overseas, hey, ask it. We'd like to sit here and answer and try to help you understand the fuel better.
Thank you so much. Jay Berry, Bobby Likis Car Clinic. Like us, you'll love us. IgniteRacingFuel.com and BobbyLikisCarClinic.com. See you next week, same time, same station.
Approval of Car Clinic Productions Incorporated.
Time to go to our Car Clinic inbox. Jim in Indianapolis writes, "Bobby, I have a 2010 Ford Explorer, and it's taking more than 10 minutes for the engine to warm up, whereas it used to take 6. I hear you guys talking about Stant thermostats. What makes them so special?" Thanks, Jim. You probably heard me talking about the Superstat in particular. Superstat is a premium-grade thermostat that performs better and lasts longer. The Superstat features heavy-duty springs that help return it to a closed position to prevent cold running. A larger heat motor helps control engine temperature, while a heavier gauge steel housing gives it a high-end feel. Just hold one yourself and you'll feel the difference. The Superstat is American-made and comes with a limited lifetime warranty. You definitely don't want to compromise when replacing your Explorer's engine thermostat. The Superstat helps maintain proper air-to-fuel ratio, which maximizes fuel economy, keeps tailpipe emissions in check, and provides optimal performance. Learn more about the Superstat at your local auto parts store or at stant.com.
You're listening to Bobby Likis Car Clinic.
P. Ricey Outfitters, I'm Tina. How can I help you?
I'd like to place an order.
Great. Which item?
The cotton roll neck sweater, large.
Okay. Periwinkle, Loden, or caramel?
The caramel, please.
The what?
I'd like it in caramel.
Oh, the caramel?
Yeah, that's what I said, Tina.
Actually, you said caramel when it's pronounced caramel.
Can't we just call it yellow?
No.
Everyone knows the best part of a Milky Way. They just don't know how to say it. After all, it's our caramel.
It's caramel.
Ugh, that makes a Milky Way great.
You start my morning, you stir in my soul, you warm my heart, make me feel whole. Your aroma calls me, starts my morning, happy morning. Your name is Fulton's Mountain Grown.